Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday live stream. So I like price predictions. I think they're quite fascinating. I think everybody needs a little bit of hopium here and then. But I got to tell you, these two price predictions are a little bit crazy, although they could actually come true. So the first one we're going to take a look at, this is Bitmine CEO Tom Lee. And he has been making the rounds as being extremely bullish on Ethereum, and he may rightfully be bullish on Ethereum as it starts to appreciate in this cycle, especially with the different treasuries. And of course, let's say like Robinhood taking their layer 2 solution, Arbitrum, and putting all their stocks on there. Looks like a pretty good use case. But this video was pretty interesting as he pretty much says like Ethereum's going to be from 14,000 all the way up to 60,000. And the base case for Bitcoin until the end of the year is 250,000. Now, again, my price predictions are simple, and I'm undefeated. I am 100% accurate since 2023. Bitcoin will be somewhere between $1 and $5 million by the end of this year. Ethereum could be anywhere from 20 cents all the way up to $700,000 by the end of 2025. Again, try to beat me. You can't. These are the things that makes you think. Now, Tom had a great video. I linked it in the description. You can check out the whole thing. But just to catch up for the first 7 minutes or so, it's about a 14-minute video. I don't want to use too much of your time. He made some great points. And one of those was taking a look at Wall Street innovation as far as the last 15 years, post-1971. What happened in 1971, you ask? Well, I think you all know. It's when President Nixon took us off the gold standard. And of course, we had this thing called the dollar, the synthetic dollar, and we had to give people to put their faith into it. And because of that, and the different things that were going on behind the scenes, Wall Street had to innovate and say, we got to make these guys to trust it. And what they did from 1971 to 89, they did a good job. And they came up with a lot of different products, money market funds, futures, debit cards, mortgage-backed securities, swaps, index futures, bonds, CDOs, loans and stuff, and ETFs. This one from 1971 to 1989. So, I mean, you're looking at 18 years. They did a great job, and people pretty much gave in to the dollar. Now, we can see that because of what happened in 1971, some of the big winners were the massive businesses. The financial institutions, 7 of the top 30 largest companies in the world would actually, their claim to their growth could be directly attributed to 1971. Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan Chase, Visa, MasterCard, Bank of America, ICBC, Agriculture Bank. And we can see that, of course, they did a marvelous job. And what Tom is saying in these first 7 minutes was like, look, in 2025, things are going to become digital. He believes Bitcoin's a store of value. I believe the same thing. He believes that markets are going to put everything onto the blockchain or make them digital assets. And he talks about the Genius Act because that's going to bring forth stable coins. I happen to believe him. I think there's a big 4 that you could take a look at. Ethereum being one of the top ones. Tron being the second one. They have a massive place in the stablecoin market. If you don't believe me, just go take a look at DeFi Llama. It'll tell you. And then, of course, we have Solana and Binance Smart Chain. And, of course, some layer 2s. But what he's saying here is that, look, in 2025 going on right now, what's going to happen is Wall Street is going to do the same trick. They're going to make people trust the blockchain, and they're going to move things forward on the chain, real-world assets, and all these digital assets. Stable coins, equities, credit, tokenized real estate. That sounds pretty good. Monetized reputation, intellectual property, and then, of course, the AI parts, royalties, loyalty programs, verify AI, and then proof of humanity, and all these things are going to happen. So what I'm going to do is the next 3 minutes is him giving you a price prediction of why this is. And again, this could actually happen. I can tell you why or how it can happen after we get done. I think it actually could, but there is 2 things that have to come into play. Let me make sure you can actually hear this perfectly. And here we are, Tom Lee telling you why Ethereum's going to go between $16,000 and $60,000. Crazy.
These are called bases. And in Wyckoff's methodologies, they say the bigger the base, the bigger the breakout. And what they mean by that is that you're creating a lot of potential energy as a stock or a network asset bases, and then eventually leads to a breakout. Well, let's look at that breakout. In 2020, that breakout took place, and Ethereum went from $90 to $48.66, or 54 times increase. Well, the low point here in this base was $13.85. So With this breakout, we're expecting an upside move. Is it potentially 54x? I'm not sure, but that's what happened last time. Another way to think about Ethereum is the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. And in our view, the tailwinds I'm talking about argue for an all-time high in this ratio. The 8-year average Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio is 0.04790. And it's currently 0.04032, meaning we're below the long-term average. The all-time high in this ratio was 0.080727. Of course, it started off higher, but I'm talking about the 2021 all-time high. So we think that not only should Ethereum recover to the long-term average, it should probably get to the all-time high ratio and arguably exceed it as we start talking about Ethereum acting as the chain for both Wall Street to build its payment rails and the financial system, as well as AI. So let's think about what that means for price. So I have a grid here. On the left side is Bitcoin price levels, and then going across are various levels of the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. Our year-end target, this is from the Fundstrat side, for Bitcoin is $250,000. And if you look at the 8-year average, okay, then you can see the range of prices for Ethereum using this ratio and different levels of Bitcoin. And here's the 2021 high. And as you can see, at a $250,000 Bitcoin, you get to somewhere between $12,000 and $22,000 value per Ethereum token. But that's just a ratio recovery. If you look at the replacement cost of payment rails and the banking system, that gets you to an implied value of Ethereum of around 60,000. And that puts the ratio at roughly 0.2500 Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. And as you can see, that's how you get to $62,000 per Ethereum token.
So sounds good. Don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, maybe it could. And who am I to say if Ethereum can't get to 60,000? Maybe it could in time. Like, we all know that digital assets are essentially the future. We know that Bitcoin is going to probably do extremely well over the next, I don't know, 3, 10, 20 years. I can tell you that things will go up. I just can't tell you the time frame. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that I think what Tom is saying, 60,000 seems ridiculous to me. I don't think it's going to happen by 2025, that's for sure. But I think there's some things that have to actually happen for it to move in that direction. One of the things it has to do is there has to be low to no competition. Wall Street, it seems, is picking Ethereum. However, there are other different winners in the background. We've talked about Tron and why it's actually a big player. Binance Smart Chain, I know people say that sounds crazy. Outside of America, it's the truth. However, if you see some other winners that are out there, Solana is another big one that different projects seem to pick because of just how fast it is. Now, decentralization, things like that, we can argue that and say what's decentralized and what's not. Hint, it's a lot more decentralized than Binance Smart Chain or say like Base, but it is what it is. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that the Wall Street belief has to continue on with what's happening. They have to want to tokenize all the things that Tom Lee is talking about. I'm just the pleb, I'm not for sure. Tom Lee is in that circle, so maybe it actually is. And I guess there'll be one more thing, which would be the third thing, which is the macro environment has to continue. And we're going to take a look at just the risk on aspect of that. If the macro doesn't line up, meaning if the US M2 money supply starts to falter, global M2 money supply starts to go down, or if we see some rate cuts that don't get actually cut in, say, the next 14, 15 days or so at the the Federal Reserve meeting, or in the next 2 meetings, we're going to have problems. And I don't think we're going to see those big blow off tops like we've seen. I think it's actually going to decrease, but we'll see what happens. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comments section. And then I will say that Tom's company started off like a rocket. This is BMNR, or Bitmine Immersion Technologies. And in the last day or so, it's been down, well, actually, excuse me, it's up after hours, a whopping 1.27%. Over 5 days, not too good, negative 15%. Over a month, though, 36%, 6 months, 686%, and over 1 year, 286%. Of course, there's a little bit of euphoria there. So we'll see what happens in that as Ethereum starts to get added onto the balance sheet. But as far as like 60,000, could happen. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. And that would lead me to our next piece, what I was talking about in the thumbnail and the title, Bitcoin to 10K. This is on David Lin's channel. And I just kind of was perusing this morning and I almost spit my coffee out when this guy said that, hey, Bitcoin's going to 10K. And I thought to myself, I'm like, who's this joker? But he had some good points. I hate to say that, but he did. His name is Mike McGlone. He's a senior commodity strategist at Bloomberg Intelligence. And if you, I'm always leery about people giving price predictions. Mike actually been pretty good. In June of 2020, his prediction was Bitcoin would go to 20,000 by the end of 2020. And people were laughing at him because he made this in June. They didn't think it was going to go up that high. And how it actually went up, let's see, December 20th, December 31st, it was 29,000. So, I mean, look, Mike here, excuse me, Mike here did a really decent job. He called 20,000 with 29,000. I think no one would fault him for that. Then in October 2020, he said, hey, Bitcoin's going to 100,000 by 2025. And I think we all know he was right there. And now he's saying, well, I'm just going to have you listen to this. This is about a minute and a half long. I also linked this video. You can listen to it, but listen to some of the points he has about this. And I'm just trying to give you a little bit of context. So let me make sure you hear this perfectly. Take a listen to Mike here.
Threshold. I think Bitcoin now, it added a zero. I think it loses zero now. Go back to 10,000. That's not a big deal in terms of Bitcoin's history, but for people who own it, it is. And the bottom line is right now, to me, that threshold was profound. And the first time we traded 100K was on December 6th. To me, that was a classic sign of you're supposed to be selling when they're yelling. And that triggered gold. So since that day, as of now, from December 6th to now, the end of August 29th, gold's up about 30%, Bitcoin's up maybe 8%, stock market's up about the same amount, S&P 500 total return. And the Bloomberg Galaxy crypto index is unchanged. To me, it's now, what are we going to do for the rest of the year? We have 1 month left, and then we tilt over to the fourth quarter. And I think this is just a sign of volatility is going to pick up. Bitcoin has proved it's a risk-on asset. The 48-month correlation of Bitcoin, the S&P 500 right now is about 0.6. That's about, it's the highest ever. I use 48 months because it's 4 years. And in 2020, before the biggest money pump in history, the correlation was negative 0.05. So Bitcoin's proven it's a risk-on asset. It's going up because the stock market's going up. It has 20 million companions in cryptocurrencies. And then there's gold, which has only there's only 4 precious metals, so 3 companions. So I think gold's going to continue to outperform.
So, and then it kind of trails off from there. But you know what? He's right. I mean, he's right and he's wrong. Because when he talks about there's like 21 million companions, there is no, like Saylor would say, there is no second best. It is a great store of value. It is fantastic. It's still the king. And I'm not going to say that fart coin is the same as Bitcoin. That's ridiculous. However, we have to take a look and see, what exactly Mike is talking about here. And like I said, some of those things, it is a risk-on asset. And we can see that when the market goes up, Bitcoin goes up. Now, it's not all the time. There are different variations, of course, what's going on in the backgrounds. But, if we can take a look here, as far as like gold, he's right. And gold has gone up. However, he did say in December to today, he said gold has outperformed Bitcoin. And he's right. It's from December to now of 2024, gold's been crushing it and it's doing great. I own a little bit of gold, not near as much as any crypto, but hey, congratulations, gold holders. But I will say, if you just take a look at, it says here 1 year, 41%. I'm not even going by December. If you take a look at the 1 year for Bitcoin, because if we take from December, 100, like Mike was talking about, roughly 100,000, and now we're at 110,000, not too great. But you just go back 2 months prior and take a full year, Bitcoin's on 87%. So it's outperformed gold. And if we take a look at 2 years and 4 years and 8 years, it's massively outperformed gold. I'm not saying that it's a bad asset. I'm just saying that's just the proof. We can take a look at any time frame that we want to. That's the big thing. But there is something more massive that I think that we should be talking about. For Bitcoin to go from, I don't know what it is, 110K today, something like that, to go down to 10K, that's like a 90% drop. Check the math, roughly 91 or 90% drop, right? So if we got a 90% drop, has that ever happened? That's never, ever happened. Absolutely not. And we can take a look here as a reminder from 2013 to the top to the bottom in January 20, roughly 1 year, you had an 85% reduction, which seems scary, but back then it was like, December 27, 2018, this is what I lived through. It was an 84% reduction. And of course, now the last cycle from November 2021 to November 2022, roughly it went Tuesday, the 9th of November to Wednesday, 9th of November, it was a 77% reduction, 77%. So we've never, ever gone down 90% plus. And I would like to remind everybody of one big thing. You know how these 4-year cycles, everybody talks about them? I still believe in them. But they do go in line with the United States presidential election. And I will remind everybody that Bitcoin has never gone below the price of the presidential election date. 2012, it hit $10, never went below. That's when Obama got elected. 2016, November 8th, $707 for Donald Trump, the first run. And it never went below 707. And November 4th, 2020, it hit 14,133. It never went below that. And now the last price was 2024, November 5th, 69,432. And I'm willing to bet if we do drop, and I got to tell you, I wouldn't begrudge Bitcoin to go low. I'd like to actually pick it up at that level. If it does go back, I don't think it's going to go much below 69. Some people say, well, it's 50K or 30K. I'm just telling you the facts looking back historically. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comments. And lastly, is there's some things that do concern me about this. And we talk a good game, but have you noticed something in the background, just how much institutions like MicroSaylor, MicroStrategy acquire? This just happened today. Mike just got another 4,000 Bitcoin for $500 million. And then Metaplanet, they just approved $3.8 billion to buy more Bitcoin. And we've got all these institutions coming in, and the ETFs and the sovereign wealth funds and the pensions, and everything's buying it up. And I'm like, why the hell is Bitcoin 110K? And really, it's always the same thing. There's people that'll tell you to hold on in diamond hands, and they'll dump it on you. This is from David Bailey. He's a gentleman that runs the Bitcoin conference. And he says, the only reason we're not at 150K right now is two massive whales. Once they're slain, one down, one halfway there. I happen to not totally believe it's just two guys pushing us down. And then Sani says, sad to tell you, there are way more waiting in line. And David says, we'll get it done. But I have to tell you, there's going to be people in the background that are just going to sell it. And it doesn't matter how long they hold on to it and how much conviction some people think they have, they're going to take some profits. And some people say, why don't they just take loans? It's their prerogative. And this is from Bitcoin Magazine Pro. And when I have Matt Crosby on, he talks about, he's like, look, he goes, roughly 60%, 70% is just people who are either short-term or near short-term holders. This is the people that have held Bitcoin more than 10 years. And it's roughly 16%. If you add on people that held for 7 years, and this, I'm sorry to say this, this is the HODL waves. So if you hold it in a particular address for so many years, you are added to this list. So it's not just about one wallet or 10,000 wallets. It's just these wallets, how long have they stayed in there? And of course, this will, you'll have Bitcoin that would be considered the Satoshi era or the Satoshi wallet, or people who have lost in a landfill or whatever. And it's just not going to move, or they just are so curmudgeon-y and just don't want to sell. And this is how much we have. So people that are 7 year or more, that's roughly 20%. 5 years or more, that's roughly only 30%. 3 years to more, or 10 years, you're looking at another 38%, or just 38%. And then 2 years, 50% roughly, and then 1 year to 2 years, 58%. And then the rest are kind of like short term. I I don't consider someone that's just hold for a year or a long-term holder. I'm sorry. So these people can still move the markets. They can still trade on leverage and screw things up, thin order books, bot trading, all the things we talked about. So again, it's like those hurdles we talked about this weekend. For us to really go into these all-time highs, there has to be belief, there has to be the macro, there has to be people who aren't on leverage, and there has to be a whole host of things to go. Will it go up? Sure, it'll go up. I just can't tell you exactly how much or when or all that great stuff, but I still believe Q4 is going to be big, just like it always is post-halving year. Anyhow, tell me where I'm wrong. And lastly, I need to remind everybody that there is one group of traders that are going to beat all of us. And those traders, I shouldn't even call them that. They're just pieces of trash, are scammers. Here's 3 stories about how it doesn't matter how much you accumulate or buy the dips and make some good trades. There's always gonna be something out there to screw you. So sometimes when you do less, you make more. So stop doing this stuff. BNB chain-based Venus protocol drained of 27 million, contract compromise. And this one, the attack involved updating a contract. I guess that was on the back end to a malicious address, affecting tokens like, I guess this is virtual or VUSDC and virtual ETH. Security teams are monitoring the situation. The Venus community has not yet released an official statement, probably because it's not good. Venus Protocol is one of the largest lending platforms on the BNB chain. Maybe this is why people don't like to take loans out, because they get screwed over like this, all these different things. So that's a bummer. And that's just one. I don't know, Bunny Dex, this isn't a big one, but it just happened today too. So they got drained of 8.4 million. This is on the, not that Ethereum was hacked, just a protocol built on Ethereum was hacked. The Bunny token is down 2.5%, no big deal. Bunny's developers have suspended all contract operations. Again, this is around 8.4 million. And the Bunny's post reads, as a precaution, we have paused all smart contract functions on all networks. Our team is actively investigating and it will provide updates soon, blah, blah, blah. The exchange runs on Uniswap v4's hooks feature, which Uniswap Labs CEO Hayden Adams described as a plugins to customize how pools, swaps, fees, and liquidity provider positions interact. And again, the more things people like to make it easy and like the future of finance, the more it kind of collapses. And then also, my favorite news story, Trump's new token. Holders of Trump's crypto token targeted by hackers and phishing exploit. And we did a story about this, and I just said be cautious with this one because of the cliffs and the unlocks. There's going to be a lot of sell pressure. I just heard a story that they're going to start burning the tokens that they generate from the fees. And great, it might work out. I'm just not going to get into this. But if you got into it, you were targeted by hackers. Hackers exploited a loophole in Ethereum's Pectra upgrade. And this would go back to what I was talking about with Tom. I said, this could work. Ethereum could do great, but Wall Street has to believe in the narrative and that they're safe. They don't care so much about giving this fantastic service to people. They care about making money, and they can't make money if their customers lose their funds because of a hack. So I'm not saying Ethereum itself gets hacked. I'm just saying that you see that when you create your own token here, there's problems. Now, again, Robinhood is using Arbitrum, which has been battle tested and layer 2 solution. I don't know if the other firms are going to create their own or not, but if they do, God bless them, because good luck. The attack involved a malicious delegate contract that redirects funds to hacker control addresses when victims deposit tokens. Users reported difficulties in rescuing the tokens with scams and phishing links, further complicating the situation. My heart goes out to people because they work hard and they get screwed over, and I just hate it. But that's just what we have for today, so sucks. That's it for this one. Like today's video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. Everybody talk about is really time sensitive, and we're kind of coming into the last, like I say, the final countdown. We've got Q4 coming up, and I think that's the big one. But let's just go over some Q&A, and I'll answer all your questions. All right. Yeah. Mike Bigloon, or however you want to spell his last name, but he's legit. Yeah. Is that the one we were talking about right here? Mike McGloon. Yeah, like I said, like the usual response to somebody saying that Bitcoin's going to 10K is to attack that person and say, that guy's a moron, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Right? I was listening to the whole interview. I'm like, that doesn't make sense, actually. So I mean, you have to have an open mind, because if not, you're in an echo chamber. When you're in an echo chamber, you start to fall victim to the groupthink, and that's a big problem. So try to search out different people who will challenge your narrative, and then you can strongman that argument and go from there. So yeah, digital asset degen is right. Guy seems like a decent guy. Just call him like he sees him. Rob never stepped down from the channel. I mean, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for this blow off top so I can, layer out and then take a break. But here we are. We're still here, everybody. 39K Bitcoin bear. That'd be awesome. CBDD will be the ultimate floor. Google it. Okay. Sailor's got a pretty good price. True. Baggies. Stupid OTC market. Yeah, that's true. OTC markets doesn't really move too much. Now remember, the way that MicroStrategy accumulated so much Bitcoin in the background, didn't really move the markets, because they made a deal with Coinbase. And with Coinbase, they said, let's make an algorithm, and we're going to buy this Bitcoin OTC. But we don't buy big, huge pieces. We want to do this over a long time continuum and just kind of like sip from the straw. And they did it. Now I think it's a little bit different as they start to put in big orders, but I believe it's still OTC. So that's where we are. And of course, you're welcome to tell me how there's a supply shock coming. Like I've been hearing that since 2017, but sure. Maybe it'll happen. Probably. Luna was always virtual. Yeah, Luna, what a bummer, huh? Senator from Florida. Okay. 11 says, hey, Rob, you mentioned before round tripping bags. What do you mean by that? And why is it bad? I'm sorry. I need to explain that. So when you round trip your bags, let's say you're a new investor to crypto, and you look at things and you say, okay, turn this down. Okay, looks like I'm glowing. And you get in 2017 and you buy Bitcoin, and then it starts to go up and you think you're a genius because, in the bull run you are. And then as things go forward, you start to buy Ethereum and Cardano and everything, EOS, stuff that'll never go down. And you don't take any profits because you listen to the people and they say diamond hands, laser eyes, buy the dip, hodl, whatever. And you don't take any profits because you believe in that project. And then you watch Bitcoin and Ethereum drop by 85%, and altcoins, you see them fall even more. So what I talk about round tripping your bags is you bought Bitcoin at 8,000, it goes up to 20,000, and then it goes right down to, what was it, 5,000 at one point? Yeah. And essentially you just round tripped your bags. Wouldn't it be great if you could buy it 8,000, sell it around 18,000, take those profits, wait for it to go down, and then buy again when it goes low. That's it. So try to do that part. You buy up here and just not wait for it to go all the way down here. Sell up here, buy down here. It's a very simple thing to do, but very hard to get it right. Oh. KPSBCU, I don't know what this is. Hey, Rob, what do you think in codes we trust analysis X about his Bitcoin ceiling model, about his bond yield spreads model, predicting Bitcoin cycle top ranges? We'll get your opinion on it. All models are useful. No, excuse me. All models are wrong and some are useful. So in everything that's there could be truth to that. And it sounds like a pretty good analysis using bond yield spreads to see just how far we can get Bitcoin. Sure. What I would recommend to everybody is that don't just use one indicator, use multiple. And we talked yesterday at length of some pretty good indicators. Matter of fact, we talked about 30. And the website that's free to use, CoinGlass, and just go there. If you're unfamiliar with that, check out the channel from yesterday and watch that video. Danny says Bitcoin Cash will be interesting this cycle. Way underrated. Yes. Jimmy says, Rob, you should create a live stream on the beach in Puerto Rico and run that while you're on vacation from the channel. I always thought that'd be a pretty good idea. I actually thought it would be really fun to do. The problem is I don't know what kind of streaming quality I'll get just over on Condado. I don't know. Or Ocean Park, I should say. Soul Guy says round tripping is a rite of passage. He's absolutely correct. Cancelator's having a good time. That's good. If I watch some beach volleyball, also good. Dana says, what is Bobby going to do to buy during the September dip? I want to play with some S coins. What Bobby's going to do is he's probably going to go over to D.A.N channel and just talk about the most ridiculous stuff you can get into and gamble like crazy. That's the idea. And learn some new things. I got some friends that do some pretty shady stuff as far as like trading, and I'm going to learn from them and then tell my friend Bobby, and Bobby will be on D.A.N. Let's see. This is freedom. Unless you're able to do what you want when you want and not have to really answer to anybody, and you have the financial freedom to do it, it doesn't really feel like freedom, especially if you have to drag yourself into that soul-sucking job that you hate to go to. I've been there. Thankfully, not anymore. Oh, Chicago's coming in. I was thinking either a Belgian Malinois or a Golden Retriever. Belgian Malinois, you know, it's I had a half and half one, and they are a lot of energy. If you were a dog, you'd be a Doberman. I think I would be more like a Basset Hound, kind of sleepy, tired, agreeable, and just likes to be left alone. Let's see, like near. Yeah. Digital Asset Dejan says, I saw on Keeper's podcast the Trump family received 75% of revenue from the World Trump Fight token. Yeah, that token, apparently it's in the billions as far as valuation. I don't think you can take that out right now. Very difficult to do that. But I think that that token, just in the total market cap, supersedes all of their real estate, or a big bulk of their real estate empire, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. They were in real estate for their entire lives, and they put out a token, and more than that, crazy. You don't have the years for it. That's a good point. Beautiful dogs, Malinois. Bobby's a cat guy. Bobby's an idiot. And then CryptoJet says, what will Dan do during year 2026, 2028? That's hopefully the bear market, and that's when I'll be here, because nobody needs somebody rooting you on in the bull market. They just need you to say, hey, I sold some, and you might want to take a look at these indicators and do it yourself or not. And then in the bear market, when everything crashes, because fill in the blank, that's when people need someone to say, hey, this is where all the money's made. I need you to dollar cost average. This happened in 2018, 2019. This happened in 2022, 2023. I just want you to do the same exact thing that happened back then and just do it now. That's pretty much it. That'll be it. And yep, that's also true. Robbie would be a mutt. Best dogs ever. Exactly. And they're not susceptible to genetic predispositions of hip dysplasia. So that's also good. Tom Lee is on CNBC more than the anchors. That's true. I got to tell you, I think that Tom Lee is becoming a better marketer than Justin Sun. I think he's almost taken that title, and he's in the running with Charles Hoskinson. Those three guys are masters. Mike Maloney calls for Mike Maloney's, he's more of a gold Bitcoin guy, but this guy, where'd he go? Mike McGloney. Yeah. Mike McGloney. Mike Maloney actually lives in Puerto Rico. I think he still does. But Mike McGloney, he's actually had some pretty reasonable predictions. So that's why I was like, not too bad. Rob, did you buy any World Liberty tokens? No. What will happen first? Bitcoin dips below 100K or Solana above 300? Probably Solana above 300. And that's, according to Anton, quantum computing is a threat to Bitcoin. And like I said before, if we get quantum computing, Bitcoin's the least of our worries. All of our bank accounts and all of our personal information and all of our passwords, those all go away because it gets hacked, because quantum computing. can do pretty much anything. So you need to look for projects that are quantum computing resistant or quantum resistant. I think Cardano already is, and I want to say Ethereum might be, but there's too much money sloshing around the Bitcoin ecoverse for them to say, we'll just let it go. I'm pretty sure the smart people will figure it out. And that's it for tonight. So look, thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out with me for 35 minutes. That was fun times. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you mañana. Have a great rest of your day or night.